Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF Podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all. I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut up your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. We are presented by our partners over at BetMGM. My name is Rob Dosser. I have John Fanta with me. I have Terrence Oglesby with me. And fellas, we are fresh off of what I feel pretty comfortable saying is the best Saturday we're going to see in college basketball this season. Maybe the best Saturday that we've seen in college basketball in a long, long time. It comes on the heels of a Friday night where we had a top 10 matchup. We had 3 matchups between teams that are top 20 on KenPom right now. We had probably, I think I would say 11 games that I circled on the schedule and said, oh, that's something that I definitely need to watch. It lived up to the hype more than we could have imagined. Arizona lost to Purdue, North Carolina lost to Kentucky, Alabama lost to Creighton, and most importantly, Fanta, Gonzaga lost to those UConn Huskies. T.O., biggest takeaway from the weekend, go.
Biggest takeaway from the weekend is Kentucky's really good, and I'm in the Yosemite, and I can't see your shirt because it's camouflage. So people who are just listening don't know that. Aaron Bradshaw, Kentucky, holy shit. That's basically what I have to say about that. Those guys are really good. Antonio Reeves is no longer having to take the brunt of everything. And whenever Kentucky went to the bench, it was Reed Shepherd and some more really, really good players that they just came at you in waves. And Calipari has his best team in the last 5 years, I think.
My biggest takeaway of the weekend is that Purdue is the best team in college basketball today. And that can change hands, and it will, because I think Arizona can make a case. Kansas can make a case. Connecticut can make a case. Houston, I'd like to see a little bit more of and see them in the Big 12 early on to see what they are. But I think for Purdue to win that game and for Braden Smith to show us that he is playing as well, what on earth? Did you just go into the Simpsons house?
Yeah, I got tired of Yosemite. I had to go to Bart's house. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, you're at Bart's house now. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. You're going to move around rooms. You know, the Simpsons house, the color in it is sort of the way I feel about college basketball, because I just think that this sport is in such a great place right now. And all the naysayers and the people who say that this is killing college hoops or that's killing college hoops, they look dumb right now. This sport has rich parity. Teams with upside like Kentucky who impress the hell out of me. You don't know what's going to happen from game to game. Look at Michigan State just drubbing Baylor and making a massive statement. Unbelievable atmospheres. I mean, the crowds at these games. Did you see Assembly Hall on Saturday? Like that was just absurd. So we champion this sport, but it's really easy to do it right now. Mm-hmm. And I just think that what T.O. said is so accurate. The state of this sport is beautiful. And I got to say this, the last thing I would say is all throughout the weekend in a 24-hour span, you know, I called Zach Edey a generational talent. And then a lot of people say he's not a pro and this and that. So here's my message to those people. He is a generational college basketball great. 7'4", 300-pound big men. If you look at the track record of those people in college basketball and their statistics, it's nowhere even remotely close. Right. And to the people who said that it's because he's big, yeah, how'd Taco Fall pan out? How were his numbers in college? They weren't these numbers.
Connor Vanover.
So either you can choose to appreciate someone for everything that they're doing, or you can look at literally one game against FDU and have that define the take on Purdue all the freaking time. Because all this team has done the last month is win, win, win. And if you cover college basketball and you still don't believe in Purdue, you are defeating the purpose of the regular season.
Yep. Yeah, well, I don't understand how you don't call him a generational talent. He's going to win Player of the Year again.
Do you know the last time that there was a back-to-back National Player of the Year in college basketball? Ralph Sampson, 1982 and 1983. That's how long it's been. Is Ralph Sampson a generational talent, Tio?
Confirmed.
I probably would say that he is.
Yeah, I looked this up because I planned on using this yesterday and we never did. David Thompson, also 2 times. Generational talent, yes or no?
Yeah.
Bill Walton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
Oscar Robinson.
Yeah.
Robertson. Jerry Lucas.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the only people who've done it more than once. The only people who've done it more than once. It's absurd. And he's going to do it again. One of the greatest college basketball players of all time. Rare air. And then I want to throw in too, I feel like Tyler Hansbrough should be thrown into that list because he easily could have won multiple National Player of the Year. So he should have. And there was some voter fatigue because he was so good his freshman season. It was like, God, I guess how many seasons could he go 20 and 14? We got to add some flavor into this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Shout out to Tyler Hansbrough. He came up with the Make Basketball Physical Again t-shirt that we now have in the Field of 68 merch store. And make sure you go check that out, field68.shop. We have
That's
a whole bunch of new stuff
Field
up
of
there.
68.shop I've heard in a while.
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time. Go out there and buy something. We got some new stuff up there. We got some new merch in the store. Maybe we got to get a Clemson is a basketball school Terrence Oglesby quote on a t-shirt. See if we can make that work. Listen, I have 6 overreactions written down here. Purdue is the clear-cut best team in the sport, is the number 1 overreaction that I have. And we're gonna have a timer going since we already started. I'm just gonna give myself a 2-minute clock, and I will say this. If you look at what Purdue has done so far this season, right? I know that they lost at Northwestern. I know they lost in overtime at Northwestern. I know they got boo-booed at Northwestern. That is going to happen sometimes when you play Northwestern on the road in league play. They've beaten Arizona, number 2 team in America, top 5 team on KenPom. They've beaten Alabama on a neutral, a top 10 team on KenPom, and I would say probably a top 25 to 30 team in America. They've beaten Marquette on a neutral, a top 5 team in America, top 10 team on KenPom. They've beaten Tennessee on a neutral, a top 10 team in America, a top 10 team on KenPom. Yeah. They've beaten Gonzaga on a neutral, a top 20 team in America, and a top 20 team on KenPom. They beat Xavier at home in a game that we were at where it looked like they were just holding off Xavier like this, like big brother beating up on little brother. They beat Iowa at home in a game. Iowa's a top 50 team in America. In a game where it was just basically a blowout. Like, they are just steamrolling so many good teams in this sport, where I think you look at them and say, if Fletcher Loyer is going to play that way and Braden Smith is going to play that way, they are frankly unbeatable. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I think they're unbeatable. The only reason that Arizona was able to get back in that game was because they went to a 2-3 zone that messed everything up for Purdue, and Purdue still found a way to figure it out. Arizona coming into that game had not played a single possession of a zone defense throughout the entire season. They threw a curveball. It worked for about 5 minutes, but then Purdue figured it out and they won by 8. That doesn't guarantee that Purdue's going to win this year. I think that there is a clear-cut top 4 in the sport of Arizona, Houston, Purdue, and UConn, and I think you can make an argument that Kansas deserves to be in there. That's another take that we're going to have here in a minute.
Houston over Marquette, huh?
I think so right now.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But Houston over Kansas. Kansas they went on the road and beat Indiana.
So the reason, they're
10-1.
Yeah, on KenPom right now, and I know it's early and it's noisy, but the difference between number 4 and number 5 on KenPom is the same gap between the difference between number 5 and number 21 on KenPom. So that's what I was referring to when I said clear-cut top 4. There's arguments to be made. We'll get into all that. But I'm with you guys. I think Purdue right now is the best team in the sport, and I think that they have to be number 1 in the sport. And when Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer play that way, I don't think that they are beatable. All right, I'm going to move on to the next topic because I want to make sure that we get through all 5 of these overreactions. The next one, T.O., I got to go to you first on this one because you just referenced it. I'm all in on Kentucky at this point. I think that they are a team that we have to call a top 10 team. I think they are a team like UConn where they have not come close to what their ceiling is. I think that Aaron Bradsaw's presence raises their defensive floor. I don't think that their freshmen look like freshmen, and I was so incredibly impressed with that one stretch in the second half where they blew a 12-point lead. North Carolina came all the way back to take the lead, and they immediately responded with bucket to push it back to 5 late in the second half. I could not be more impressed with that Kentucky win, that Kentucky team.
Yeah, big fan. I think this is a legitimate Final Four contender this year. After watching that game, I don't think you can argue any other way. Aaron Bradshaw changes their defense big time. I mean, he wasn't as strong as Armando Bacot. Not many people are, but he swallowed him at times. And I know that sounds weird, but that's what it looked like whenever he was guarding him in the post. He is so long and he's put on 20 pounds, and it's changed the way he runs. Like there's other guys that do that too. Micah Handlockton was the exact same way. He goes from high school up to Marshall. I coached him in AAU, and then he puts on 20 pounds, and it changes everything. The way he runs, the way he walks, the way he stands. And the same thing has happened for Aaron Bradshaw, and we're just scratching the surface of his potential on the offensive end too when we're talking about Bradshaw. That shot he made towards the beginning of the game on the left 45, he caught it and fired it. It looked like a two guard. I mean, a lot of talent there, and their defensive floor is much higher. And they got Ugonna Onyeso back. How do you pronounce that last name? Onyeso, I think. Yeah. So their defense is going to be much better, and they still have an outside shot at getting one more 7-footer available. And if that happens, you can continue to do it. And here was the most encouraging thing, if I'm a Kentucky fan, was the fact that they played Bradshaw and Trey Mitchell together, and it didn't change their offense. I think a lot of people were expecting them to go back big, high-low. These things didn't happen. They're still running 5 out, and you can do that because both Trey Mitchell and Bradshaw are serviceable from the perimeter. Give me Kentucky. I think they can make it to Phoenix.
I 100% agree with you, T.O., but you go first, Fana.
Kentucky has the most upside in college basketball, and offensively, they're as dangerous of a team to guard as there is in the sport right now. Yes. Because the fact that, and I know it's just by principle, but still, the fact that you are bringing Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, T.O., you brought him up, Adu Thero, and Anyenza from off the bench, that's the thing. When Carolina was going to their bench versus when Kentucky's going to their bench, Kentucky's going to 2 of the 3 or 4 best freshmen that we've seen in the country from off the bench in all of college basketball. Not to mention, DJ Wagner keeps getting better, guys. Like he's getting better and better. Does he make some mistakes? Yes. But what stands out about this Kentucky team is they don't have to play a certain way to win.
Yeah.
They have multiple ways they could beat you.
Yeah, and I thought it was really promising that DJ has been a little bit more of a drive to pass guy than I thought that he would be. For the people that are just listening to this on audio, T.O. has changed his background again. I don't know where are you right now? You got a pull-up bar in the background?
I'm in a spaceship with an arcade machine.
Okay, fair enough.
You kind of look like the guy from Austin Powers right now.
Which one? Dr. Evil?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I will say this about Kentucky, just to try to steer this thing back onto the tracks, because we always get thrown off on the tracks here, is that I don't think Justin Edwards is near where he could be by the end of the season. Like, I don't think he's really played all that well this year. I think that you combine that with the fact that DJ Wagner has kind of been a little bit more of a drive to pass guy than I expected him to be. You have a team that has now a higher defensive floor with Bradshaw available, a team that still has upside because we haven't seen a guy that was projected as a potential number 1 pick coming into the season play his best yet. And this is the single most promising part about that. They got Aaron Bradshaw and Onyeso back for this game. The first time they had all 3 of their big guys with Trey Mitchell there, including in that group. And they still managed to play an 81 possession game, which is the second most possessions they played in the game this season. They haven't stopped spacing the floor. They haven't stopped running. They just added a couple of taller players into the mix. And I think, to me, that is the most important part that we have seen here from all that. I know it's early, but it's never too early to fire off a hot take. And this is where I have to mention Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. That is VLTED, Vaulted. The thing you're going to like about it, it's got a challenge feature so you can prove that you are smarter than your friends. Download the app, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools today. Here is my challenge, Mac. Here is my prediction. Clemson's going to win the ACC this year. Clemson's the best team in the ACC, and they are going to take home an ACC regular season title when things are all said and done. Is that crazy?
No, that's not crazy at all. Not one bit. In fact, I don't want to say they're the favorite, but I think if you were a betting man, based on who they've played and how they've played. I don't think it's crazy. When those students get back from Christmas break and the ACC starts really getting rolling, it's going to be hard to win at Clemson. And those guys are built to win on the road. I love Brad's teams in terms of their toughness in the half court defensively. I don't think it's crazy at all.
I think Clemson's a quality team.
All right, overreaction number 3. I made this argument to Goodman on the Saturday night show, and I'm going to pitch it to you guys too, and I want your take on it. I think that Kansas is a flawed basketball team when you look at them, right? I don't know if I trust McCullough or DeJuan Harris to necessarily be shooters. I think there are ways that you can guard them when Hunter Dickinson is the best shooter that you have on the floor. They definitely have not figured out what they're going to do at the 2 spot. They definitely have not figured out what they're going to do with their bench. It's like they have 4 studs and then 4 guys that should be like the 9th man on the team, and they don't have those like role players that can kind of hold everything together. And I just don't think that it matters, right? I'm at the point where we can sit here and say on paper, these are the issues that they have, but it hasn't impacted anything that they do at this point, right? DeJuan Harris hit a huge 3 at Indiana. Kevin McCullough hit a huge 3 at Indiana. Elmarco Jackson hit a huge 3 at Indiana. Jamari McDowell hit a huge 3 at Indiana. Kevin McCullough against UConn made 3 huge threes down the stretch. I think for all the flaws that you have there, you have the best coach in college basketball at figuring out those answers. And you got dudes that are just gamers that know how to win and that find a way to get it done when it matters. Like I understand all these question marks that you have with them. I'm saying, fuck that. Throw it all out the window. Just ride with them. You got 4 dudes. You got Hunter Dickinson. You got Bill Self. You got the best point guard in the sport when it comes to being a leader. That's enough for me. They can win a national title. Doesn't mean they're going to, but they can absolutely do it.
In the last 2 years, when DeJuan Harris scores at least 7 points in a game, Kansas is 23-1. 23-1. So when he clicks, Kansas does not beat Kentucky if Harris isn't hitting shots. Now, he had an otherworldly night that night. I think we'd be talking about Kentucky in the top 5 if they had completed that game. But let's talk about Kansas. Bill Self said this at Assembly Hall before the game to CBS on Saturday. He said in his interview, the biggest thing with Hunter Dickinson is not just the leadership part and this chip on your shoulder where we don't mind being the hated. He said it's the fact that it's allowing KJ Adams and Kevin McCullough Jr. to play naturally. And that spoke to me, because to hear a coach say that and basically admit that they were out of place last year and that he would have liked to do things differently, that's why this team can win a national championship. Because Dickinson is the most offensive gifted player in the post, Self says this, that he's ever had. And Self's the best offensive technician in the game. And that game Saturday, how many of the 363 teams in the country would have lost at Assembly Hall on Saturday? I'd be willing to say 360. Kansas was one of the 3 that probably that could win, and they did. So as you go into your high-rise Bill Self retirement condo, as you change your Zoom background again to those again who are listening, who must be wondering, what drugs are we on? I can assure you we're not on anything. T.O. just keeps changing his Zoom background. The Kansas Jayhawks, they don't have play at the shooting guard. But if anybody can make it work, it's Self. And just think of what happens if Johnny Furphy or Nick Timberlake ever show a sign of a pulse.
Hey, here's the good thing about them, and I agree with everything you're saying. Here's a good thing about them is when you have DeJuan Harris, you have McCullough, you have Hunter Dickinson, and Dickinson is a bit of a lightning rod, but I'll just leave it at there. KJ Adams, another guy with experience. You're going to get constant production the whole game. And I made this comparison last night. It's kind of like when you play Kansas, it's like playing the Miami Heat. They're going to be the Miami Heat for 48 minutes. Well, when you play the Kansas Jayhawks, they're going to be Kansas for 40 minutes, and you have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves, and they share the basketball. So even though there's not a ton of shooting on that team, they share the basketball better than anybody else in college hoops. They have an assist on 72.7% on all their made field goals are assisted by one teammate or another.
That's a stupid number, by the way. That's
a silly number. That's a silly number. It doesn't make sense, especially for that team. Who's the second place team is 4 percentage points lower, and it's Minnesota. So it doesn't necessarily correlate to winning, but what it does do is it tells you that your team's trying to share the ball. And whenever you have the type of talent that they have, at least at their 1, 2, 3, after that, there's question marks, but they're 1, 2, 3 with McCullough, Dickinson, and Harris, in my opinion, who's really, really good. It's like you're going to be able to figure out a lot on a given night with your consistent approach. That's my biggest thing with Kansas. I think they're that good because of that approach.
Yeah, and just for the record, for the people that are going to yell at T.O. here, when he says you're 1, 2, and 3, he means your number 1 option, number 2 option, number 3 option, not your point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. We know Hunter Dickinson is not a shooting guard. Okay.
Yeah. For clarification, for all you idiots,
we know he's not a shooting guard.
For all you idiots, for all those idiots that can't read between the lines. Option 1, option 2, option 3.
All right. Overreaction number 4. Michigan State is back, baby. All they needed was that one spark. They just needed one game, T.O. They just needed to find one morning where they woke up and said, hey, look, I'm ready to play. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. Tyson Walker's going to make shots early in the game. A.J. Hogarth's going to make shots early in the game. Cohen Carr's going to throw down windmills early in the game. Their big guys are going to show up. All they needed was that one game. They exercised their demons, and they are back. Is that crazy?
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Well, so okay. Do you guys just not see this team in a 6-11 or a 7-10 game in the tournament?
That's absolutely where they're going to be. They're going to lose. They're going to lose 13 games this year, and they're going to be a 7 seed, and they're going to make the Final Four. Like, we've seen this story before, Tom Izzo. Like, you can't trick me. I know what's going to happen here. You're going to play like shit, and then all of a sudden you're going to figure it out in the NCAA tournament because your guys are just bored during the season. We know what's happening here. I've seen this story before. It's
a great sense. I mean, the thing about them is, here's where I will say that they adjusted, and I'll give them credit. They had 21 fast break points, so they finally were running the floor. Like, they have been one of the slowest teams in the country this season. They were like 325 in tempo, which even for Izzo's worst teams, his tempo is like 150, not 325. So Cohen Carr, I'll tell you what, guys, when he's in the game right now, good things are happening. Like, I will say that Carr's been impressive. I like him a lot. Jeremy Fears did some good things, but you look at this, how sustainable are some of the things that happened in this game? I mean, Walker's been good throughout much of the season. If you're going to not blame somebody, you shouldn't be blaming him. He's been the one constant. But, like, I guess when I look at what this result is, how many times for Michigan State are we going to see Xavier Booker and Carson Cooper shoot a combined 6 for 6? It's probably not going to happen. So I don't think that their actual formula from Saturday's win was sustainable. The desperate team won. They delivered an ass kicking to Baylor. Baylor had an eye-opening result. The one thing you could say about Baylor is they're not very good defensively. Michigan State hasn't scored the ball easily. You get easier baskets, but you do defend. And Ray J. Dennis wasn't at his best, and they turned the ball over quite a bit in this game, and Baylor got the crap kicked out of them in what ended up becoming a pretty predictable game.
Well, this was a pretty easy one to pick up. It's happening in Detroit, and it might as well be a Michigan State home game. It was booted from the jump. Everybody knew what was going to happen. I had a buddy who gambles. He hit me up. Should I hit Baylor? They're 3.5-point favorites over Michigan State, who's 5 and whatever. I was like, hold on. Michigan State needs this more than anybody else in college basketball. I wouldn't bet that one because I feel like Michigan State does have it. It's just been dormant. Am I buying that Michigan State's going to make a magical run to a 2 seed? No, I'm not. I think they're still capable of making a deep tournament run because that's what Izzo does. And I'm not doubting Izzo. I've been doing this for 3 years? Not doubting Izzo. So that's what I've come to believe. And I agree with everything that Fanta says. I just don't know that they're going to find collective scoring enough this season to be a viable force in the Big Ten.
You guys are just haters. Look, I will say this.
Yeah, haters.
If there's one thing that I can sit here and I can guarantee in this moment on this show, on this episode of the DTF podcast on December 18th, Monday morning, 1:48 in the PM Eastern Standard Time, the only legitimate time zone, is that Michigan State, every game from here on out, is going to shoot 8 for 12 from 3.
Shot making helps.
Exactly. Make or miss game, but how?
Whatever.
But like,
you guys are just haters, okay?
No, but
back. They're back. You guys
Ray J. Dennis, and Jaden Nunn turned the ball over 12 times.
Yeah,
that's what happens when you go up against a defense like Tyson Walker and AJ Hogard. You just turn the ball over. How can you deal with that level of ball pressure? I don't know.
Here's what I will say. Yeah, exactly. Right. So now here's my thing. Okay. So we started this show with my Sure Mike being a total shit show. And then you decide on a day that we were supposed to go relatively quickly to switch your Zoom background with every topic, to which now you have, I think it's Joe Exotic from Tiger King.
Tiger King.
Who, by the way, is he in jail or out of jail?
He's still in there.
Is he still running for president?
He might be from jail. And you can do that. You can do that today.
You can. All right. Moving on.
Yeah, let's talk about that, huh?
Moving on. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today. All right. Overreaction number 5. UConn's win on Friday night against Gonzaga said more about the Zags than it did about the UConn Huskies. Finn, I'll go to you first on that one.
It was revealing about Gonzaga. They're just not deep enough. They're not deep enough. They don't have enough options. Right now, I don't even think they're a top 15 team. I think they're closer to like 20, 25 than they are to 10 or 15. If Ryan Nembhard's not creating for them off the dribble, who is doing it? And then as a result, Anton Watson's had a good year. But if you're relying on Anton Watson to be your 1 or 2, I just don't. What was so interesting about Friday night was Mark Few was trying to adjust. Okay? He tried a lot of things defensively, what they did in terms of coverage. On the offensive end of the floor, like Dusty Stromer got open for a couple of looks. He worked Greg in there for a little bit. But guys, Gonzaga, their offense just doesn't have enough. They could not go. To me, the most revealing thing about Gonzaga, and Rob, you brought this up on After Dark Friday night after the game, was when UConn is playing poorly in that game in the second half for about 5-6 minutes. Gonzaga didn't capitalize.
They didn't do anything. Yeah, the door was wide open for a comeback because UConn looked like they looked like an East Coast team playing a 10 o'clock tip-off from like the 15-minute mark of the second half to about the 6-minute mark of the second half, and Gonzaga just didn't do anything. Like that game became a slog for a big stretch of the second half, and it didn't look like Gonzaga did anything. Here's my hot take to you. I want your opinion on this. So Rasir Bolton decides to come back for like his red shirt whatever year in 2022, 2023. As a result, a former 5-star recruit that kind of thought he was probably stepping into a starting role ends up playing 16 minutes a game and averages 4.5 points as a sophomore at Gonzaga. Then that former 5-star recruit decides to leave the program and transfer out of that program and go to Wake Forest. And right now, Hunter Salas, through 9 games at Wake Forest, is averaging 17.7 points, 2.2 assists while shooting 47% from the floor, 39% from three, and 79% from the free throw line. Do you think that having a 6'5" wing that can go out and get you 17 on any given night in the ACC would be beneficial to a team that can struggle at times to score and basically has two dudes on the perimeter, and that's it? I think it would help, T.O.
Yeah, it helps. I talked to Steve the other day too, and he's playing him at the point. He's letting him attack, get downhill, doing a lot of those things that naturally he can do with his length. And for some reason, it just didn't work out. I said, Steve, like, what's the difference? He goes, he must have just fallen out of favor. I don't know. And he goes, I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about Mark Few because he's one of the best to ever do it. So I'm not going to talk bad. But I'm happy that we have Hunter now because he's really good. So no shade thrown any which way there, but it would certainly help them. But I thought it said more about Connecticut going over there. This is a team that's poof. We had our doubts with so many new players. Donovan Clingan showed what he could really be. UConn is national championship good again with a younger team.
Yeah,
they are. I seriously contemplated putting them number one, and I just couldn't do it. But I really wanted to. You know what it is? If they had beaten, like they did not play an A game at Kansas, and came so close to winning that game.
Yeah, they lost by 4 at the Fog, and somebody's asking me, "How's it going to be for them in Seattle?" I said, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, that was easy money. That was easy money.
Yeah, yep. It still feels like we haven't quite seen like UConn's best game. We haven't seen them quite put together. Maybe the North Carolina win, but it feels like we haven't quite seen it. It feels like they've kind of been stuck in third gear throughout the entire season, and they're sitting here at 10-1 with a win over 20-point win over Indiana, a 10-point win over Texas, a 15-point win over North Carolina, a 13-point win over Gonzaga in Seattle, and a 4-point loss at Cameron Indoor Stadium in the Fog.
Hey,
not
this
Cameron
week
Indoor Stadium
at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. In the Fog.
Yeah,
it's okay. You at Fog Allen Fieldhouse.
That was bad.
Not at Eleanor R. Baldwin.
that was dumb. That was not me calling. It wasn't Eleanor R. Baldwin Arena. You are right, Fana. You are correct.
She's gotten commission from you off the amount
of she should
her name. Hey, we haven't seen UConn's best this week. They've got Seton Hall. Then Saturday night at XL Center. This is a Fox game. Gus Johnson's doing it. I don't remember the last time Gus did a game at UConn. Rob, I'm sure you're a UConn junkie, so Gus has not done many games up at UConn. In Hartford Saturday night, how many points will Connecticut score when they host St. John's Saturday night?
I don't know. That's the game that UConn always loses. the Johnnies just always give them problems.
Yeah, that would be that. Well, God bless the officials. A pre-Christmas blessing. They have to referee. Before Christmas, you're going to wake up Christmas morning with Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino in your ear.
Yep. All right. Last overreaction I have. Creighton's win against Alabama, to me, was proof that Ryan Kalkbrenner is the most irreplaceable player in the Big East, and outside of maybe Zach Edey, the most irreplaceable player in all of college basketball. Is that a hot take? Is that crazy?
No.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, we saw what Kalkbrenner, whenever he sat out last year, what happened. Same thing would happen this year. He's just, from a defensive standpoint, irreplaceable. The dude doesn't foul. He blocks almost everything. And whatever he doesn't block inside of 8 feet, he alters. And whenever you make Alabama one-dimensional, that limits a lot of what they can do. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Ryan Kalkbrenner is an absolute dude. What did he go, 9 of 11 from the field? 19 points, crazy. 8 boards, 3 blocks, and I promise, even though
played the entire second half on a bad ankle too. He sprained his ankle in the first half. Played his entire second half on a bad ankle.
Yeah, he's a stud. There's nowhere to replace him from. That's the big thing. Like where would you go if he gets hurt? That's the hard part.
I agree with that. I'm going to push back in the Big East this year, and this is the compliment that I'm going to hand out here in a big take, and not just because Rob's on the show, but I was thinking about it today. If I were to vote for a Big East Player of the Year today, who I would cast my vote to, and I'd give it to Tristan Newton.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
So if you took Tristan Newton off of Connecticut, and if you took Tyler Kolek off Marquette right now, those two guys, what they mean to their respective teams, and I will even shout out Pasha Alexander at Butler. What those 3 point guards are doing really Good work. Yeah, Butler haters, we just mentioned you on the pod. The people who think we hate Butler. We don't hate Butler. They're 8-2. They're not bad. They got to beat Georgetown this week and go to 9-2. Then they're at Providence Saturday. Sneaky game.
That's the one. That's I think we talked about this.
Sneaky game for the Bulldogs.
Like a month ago. That's the game that I have circled. Is we'll find out a whole hell of a lot about Butler in that game, and I think that they are good. I think that is kind of refound his energy. And shout out to Mojo, Mojo, Maurice Joseph,
great guy.
And he still cannot guard me. That is a certified fact. All right. Last thing I want to say here. I do feel like this is, I mentioned this to you guys before we came on the show. I think that college basketball is as healthy as it's ever been. And I also feel like there's a reason why the games have been so good outside of that, like Purdue, Tennessee slugfest from the Maui Invitational. It feels like every time that we've had a great game, like on paper, it's delivered even more in terms of entertainment value, in terms of what we've seen. I'll give you an example of kind of what I mean. Over the weekend, on Saturday, we had 3 games between top 20 KenPom teams. All 3 of them opened with totals that were over 160 points. And all 3 of those games went over the total of 160. It was Kentucky and North Carolina 87-83, Purdue and Arizona 92-84, and Creighton, Alabama 85-82. So not only are there a bunch of like really good, really old teams that are playing really good basketball right now, they all seem to be playing this like up-tempo, spaced out style, a lot of fun shot makers, a lot of high scoring games, guys playing at pace with space.
They're scoring at the rim.
They're scoring at the rim. Scoring overall is the highest it's been per game since 2018, according to data on KenPom.com. And here's my theory. There's two theories I have. This one is this is just an advantage of having older guys, older shot makers, and big men that you can kind of run things around because they're sticking around in school. But it's also the lack of the charge. I feel like that's just opened up so much. Not only are we getting better lanes to the rim, but you are getting star players that are not picking up 2 dumb charge fouls and having to sit for the last 12 minutes of the first half. I just think that the quality of play and the fact that we have the best players playing more minutes has been such a great thing for the sport.
Yep. The charge call has gone by the wayside. Thank God. There's a lot more plays at the rim. You're allowed to see these teams' athleticism. Look no further than UNC and Kentucky. Those guys are flying up and down without a care in the world. When it comes to running over people, you have to try to find a way to stop them at the rim. I love it. It's made it so much more fun to watch, and it's led to a lot more scoring. Rest in peace, the charge call, and I'm here for it.
Yes, I love it.
God bless college basketball. God bless the people that listen to our show. Obviously, we're not recording Monday of next week since it's Christmas Day, at least.
What?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, maybe we will. No. Merry Christmas, everybody.
We'll have a 1-week hiatus on the DTF podcast to be able to celebrate Christmas with the families. But look, the season's been awesome. We're putting up record numbers on the field of 68.
Dude, record numbers. I was shocked.
Record numbers on the field of 68. It's only going to get better from here. It's only going to get better. March is right around the corner. So here's my message to you. Lock the fuck in. College basketball is not just a 1-month sport, baby. I'm locked in. I know Fana's locked in. I know Tio's locked in. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, or you had a wonderful, wonderful Hanukkah, if that's what you celebrate. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy the time with the family. Enjoy the days off. Make sure that you crack open that eggnog at least 9 a.m. on Christmas morning. I know I'm going to be in my house from December 24th to December 27th. I ain't going anywhere, right? So it's going to be nothing but a haze of eggnog and wine and too much food, eat my face off. I cannot wait. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. Fana, take us home, baby.
Although it's been said many times, many ways, college basketball is the best. Merry Christmas to you.